So I am getting ready to show you guys a tier ranking video, and to be honest, I was thinking like how do I want to do this? How do I want to present this to you? And I thought, because I need to do 3 videos, that I'll just sit here in my Bob shirt, you know what I mean, and go ahead and rank this for you and just do 3 videos in one setting. But I think I'll change t-shirts, but you're gonna know it was the same me. Amen. So let's get started with this tier ranking video. I was gonna do like my mic and set up that audio, but I'm afraid that I might mess that up. So you have to just get the audio from my camera, which I don't think is a bad audio at all. So what we're gonna do, I'm gonna go ahead and record. I press record, and you're gonna see me in a small way. This video, you're seeing this video after you've seen me talk about my Q1 reads, right? I want to do a quarter every quarter. It's 4 quarters in a year. This one is delayed. I wanted it to be up at the beginning of April, but that did not happen. But you're getting it before April is over, I'm hoping. I mean the video before, not this video. Let's not be serious, right? In that video, you saw me talk about some Bre-peralatives that people were kind enough to help me create when I was on a live show. I'm actually on that live right now, but using one of the reading sprints to go ahead and do this ranking. So it's 20 plus books, I believe, that I've read for January, February, and March. So again, the top is books that made my derriere itch, okay? And those are books that I just didn't like. They were disappointing. The second one is books that made me want to myself. Just, you know, you get so scared, you're like, oh, is it pee? It's kind of like in that scene of Sinners when some stuff went down and he said, oh, wait a minute, I think I shat myself. That is what I'm talking about there. Or anything adjacent. And then the third tier, you will see 2 emojis there, as you do right now. And the two emojis, sorry, is to show you that this is a book that really made me want to check down there, make sure I'm good. I'm swooning. I'm big swooning. It's romances involved. Or it's a book that truly moved me. So I'll tell you that and let you know when I put the book up there. And then the 4th column here, which is a star, it's just books that I felt that put me first. And meaning, like, when I read it, I was like, oh, this is 100% for me. 90%, because it might be a 4-star, but 90 to 100%, this book is for me. Okay? And then the fifth one have to do with a book that made me go to the comment section, which is like made me want to talk to other people about. I may have had some questions that I wanted to, you know, ask a person or something, but that's what those books are. And you've already heard me talk about the comments or whatever. And I'm just going to kind of like loosely talk about these books and also rank them, because I would love to see where all of them fit. Because in the video that you've seen before, it's just me talking about 5 books for each month versus this one. I'm talking about all the books that I read, right? So let's get into that. And if you see me looking, it's because I have to look to do the tier ranking. So let me go ahead and do that. Okay, so we're starting with Opening and Grief. And I put this as a book that I felt like was self-care, was for me. Opening and Grief. It was a book that forced me to think about different aspects of my grief, acknowledge certain parts of my grief, and to acknowledge that it's complex grief. So I'm definitely putting that there. Passion Side is a book that really it's a book that really stuck with me. I have it cut off here. I don't know why, but it's a book that just really, I don't think I'll ever be able to unknow the things of that book. And then also after I read that book, I was doing a lot of like research of femicide globally, stats that's been put out, how many women are killed by partners or people in their community, and who's at high risk, who's not, like things like that. I truly, truly appreciated reading that book, and I am very thankful for the author for writing that book. So we're going to go to the next one here, which is White Horse. And White Horse I put as a book that scared me. So this book, it definitely scared me because we're talking about missing and murdered Indigenous women / relatives, and how the story comes out and the search and the need for the main character to want to figure out what happened to her mom, but also acting like she don't give a fuck because she's hurt by it. It just talks about the complexity of grief, of like, you want to know things that you know you're not going to get the answers to, but you also feel abandoned. And that's what that book was talking about. And to be honest, there were some parts in the book where the stakes were high, the suspense was up, and I was like, oh my God, is she gonna die? Like, it was a lot. So I do think that that book deserves to be in that category. Now, Next of Kin. Next of Kin is the comment section, because honestly, when I read this book, it starts off, with this character who is being accused of killing her nephew, and she's on trial for it. And you're going through all the motions of what happened before, what happened to her child, then what happened to her sister's child, who's her nephew, the involvement of her sister's husband, her husband, and then you keep going through thinking like, oh my God, is she about to get sentenced to prison? And then there are some twists that happen, and you're like, okay, that's good, until you get to the end of the book, and you're like, well, shit, I didn't see that coming. And it's not like I didn't see that coming like, oh, this author is making stuff up, which happens, and I know a lot of people complain about that, but this is not that book, because soon as the twist happens, and some people can say, oh, I called it. I did not call it. There was no calling of anything on my end. But when I was reading it and got to the end, I was like, oh, it was right in my face. How did I not see it? But I definitely missed it, right? So the next book we're going to talk about is Kathy Wright's book 2. It's called Death de Jour. I had to pull up Storygraph because it's cutting off the name, and I was like, oh my God, I can't deal with the cutting off of the name. So for Death de Jour, this is not a book I talked about. It is a 4-star. Where do I want to put Death de Jour? Ooh, this is hard because most of the books I've read from the series I didn't like. But this one I did like. So let me put here, because it was a 4-star and I felt like it was a form of self-care as well, because Bones is a TV show that I have been obsessed with forever. Is there some things that I don't like about it? Yes. It's the same how I feel about Martin, the Martin Lawrence show, same way I feel about Living Single, same way I feel about Gilmore Girls, same way I feel about other TV shows that I love, and they are nostalgic for me. They do have some things in it that I'm like, so y'all gonna play in my face like this? But also with this book, I do remember enjoying it more than the others in the series. And I haven't really been talking about me reading this series too much because I want to finish reading all the books this year and just kind of want to do it for something for myself. I do talk to my patrons about it when I can, but yeah, book 2, I'll put it there. And then the next one is Deja Dead, which I believe is the first book in this series. In Deja Dead, I gave a 3-star, and I'm going to put it, an ass itch, because the thing about it is I did give it a 3-star, and 3 is typically not a bad place for me to be in, but I know we were being introduced to the characters, and I know the first book can be a little like wordy or whatever when you're trying to pull out all of these books, because it's like 22 plus books in this series. But I just felt like I wanted more from the debut, and it did not give what I wanted to have given, and I was being really kind to give it that 3. It should have been like a 2 or a 1, because I've now have read 7 of the books, the first 7 in the series. I've read a lot of the later books, and I'm just going to reread them, but y'all, This was not going to be as fun of a ride as I thought it was. And I'm still pushing through, because if I can push through that Sookie Stackhouse bullshit, I can push through this, right? So the next book is The Art of Theft. This is, let me tell you, this is book 4 in the Lady Sherlock Holmes series. I started reading this series, maybe 5-6 years ago. And I was like, oh, it's time for me to catch up. So I enjoyed it for the most part. I think that it could have been a bit better because I kind of feel like characters were kind of running around like a chicken with their head cut off. So maybe we'll just put this in as-ish too. I'm sorry, because it was more disappointing than it was exciting, if that makes sense. And then Parable of the Sower. This is for sure a book that moved me. This is for sure a book that moved me because of the parallels of what's written in that book to what is happening right now in the United States of America. And not only with the United States of America, with our president and with the state of everything's going on, all these executive orders aimed at dismantling anything that is supportive and helpful to all American citizens. And I think a lot of people are really just focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and not realizing a lot of white people need DEI. So to say that we're trying to get rid of them, and now a bunch of people are like, oh my God, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for voting for Trump. The thing about Trump has never hid his insidiousness in our face. And yet, you still choose to vote for him. This book is amalgamation in a way of all those things. So then, Adrift, Currents, Clean and Clear. I really love this one. I think the atmosphere, how it was set up. This person going through, a disabled little girl going through this puddle of water, and then finding out there is this whole world where people are doing things on land, on sea, and her trying to figure out where she wants to be. And to be honest, I knew that there would be a part, because this series is very formaic, you know what I mean, where it's like you get introduced to the character, right? The character finds a door. The door could be anywhere. They find the door, they are pushed in this world and have to try to survive the evil stuff of this world and also embrace the goodness of this world. And no matter if the character wants to leave or you think this is a perfect match for them, they will accidentally or in some way get pushed back into reality and then sent to a school where they're like, I know this happened to me, and the world will probably think that they have lost their fucking marbles, right? And this one I really, really, really liked, but I was also really sad when they got pulled out of this world, because I was like, oh! I was like, no, they really need this. They really, don't take this from them kind of energy is what I had. And I did give it 5 stars, so I will put it there. Of the books that put me first, right? It's books that I knew that just, it was all me. I felt like it was all me. I loved it. And then My Darkest Prayer. I did put this in my quarterly stats. Let's see what I put there for My Darkest Prayer. I did also put it as a book that I wanted to run to the comment section. And I also talked about in the other video of why I wanted to run it to the comment section. I just feel like anything that S.A. Cosby write, you want to talk to other people. You want to see what other people are talking about his books. So this one just felt very good in that way, where I was just like, I do want to know. I want to know. Tell me, you know? So then the next book is Chuck Tingle, Bury Your Gaze. So I'm going to put this here because I did give this book, I think I gave it a 4 or 5, because I just feel like 4 years I've been like, man, I want more queer stories in spooky genres. Oftentimes you see queer stories in literary fiction, contemporary, a shit ton of romance, and there's not a lot of books that I find or on my radar, and it could be because it's just not on my radar or whatever, but I don't think it's equal to amount of books that you will find that's queer and thriller, queer and horror, queer and spooky. And those are the things that I like to read, right? And I want that representation in the books that I read. So this book, I am mad that it took me so long to read it, but I did enjoy it. I did think that there were some sounds and like the man who was watching, I found all that to be super eerie and super creepy. Even how the Hollywood execs was acting towards the main character and trying to get him to change his story or his narrative. It's a coming out of a closet sort of thing happening. I just really enjoyed reading this book, and I did give it a 4 or 5. Now we're going to go on to New Masters, which is a graphic novel that I read for the Realm of Kidlit Comics book club over that Ashley does on her new channel. And let's see, I don't know, this is a hard one. I think I'll do comment section because I did give it a 3, but it wasn't disappointing. I just felt like there was so much that could have happened in expanding the elements of greed, colonialization, capitalism. I think those themes throughout the book could have been more fleshed out, but I think that it was a great start to this comic, and I would like to know what other people are talking about. Did they see those things that I saw it? Did they see those things that I saw? So yeah. And then the last dragon, I wonder if I put it as self-care, because let me just see. Okay, no, I put it as here. So the last dragon to me is a book about dragons. I've been trying to read more books about dragons because I read Fourth Wing and was like, I need more of it. So I've been slowly trying to read them. And this is way better than Fourth Wing. I just want to let you know. But for me, The Last Dragon was just so, it changed your mind. You found yourself rooting for the underdog and worried about him. And then you find out that he has a lot of potential. And then you find out about these other dragoons, which are people who were having a strong connection with different dragons that's on different planets. And you're trying to figure out how these people are surviving on a planet that when everything comes there, it turns the complete opposite. And you're also trying to figure out, like, there is something else happening underneath the layers that no one is talking about, and it could be more insidious. So to me, when we talk about things that scared me, what scared me a lot in this book was just trying to figure out if certain characters would live or not. And they were put in very, very high risk situations. And I just found myself on the edge of my seat. And it was adventurous, but I found myself on the edge of my seat quite often. So I just have to put this book there. You know what I mean? And now we have another Kathy Rice. So we have book 3, which is called Deadly Decisions. And I will put that as a disappointment. I'm not going to lie, you're going to be like, Bre, why are you disappointed? This was a disappointment too. And that's all I will say. It was not giving what I wanted to be. It's just, this one particularly, I did not like the banter between the main character, Temperance Brennan, and her nephew. I did not like how the story was told. I felt like this should have been in the drafts. And that's where I will leave that at. And then we have another one, which is called Fatal Voyage. This is book 4, and I gave this a 3. And I don't know, I'm going to put comment section only because there are certain stuff that happened in this book. So we were being introduced or starting to know about a secret society. I would want to know what other people thought about that introduction. I also would know what people thought about the indigenous representation in this book and how they feel about that. I found that while reading this book, or not this book, this series, Kathy Rice does mention indigenous people several times throughout her books, and in a more like consistent base than non-indigenous writers would write. And I thought that was interesting, and I was like, okay, let's see where this goes. But yeah, I thought this was interesting, and it's also interesting to see how serious people or serious in the way of like they are believing the delusion that is keeping them in a cult, and how dangerous that could be. And we learned that in this book. But I was like, I would like to, there's some questions I may have for other people. So I definitely put that there. Harlem Rhapsody was a disappointment to me. It really made my derriere itch, because in the book that I read before through the author, I felt like the characters was really fleshed out. I felt like we definitely got history of what was going on in that book. And then for Harlem Rhapsody, we're following the story of Jesse, who is one of the prolific writers in the magazine, or I think it's news outlet that was ran by W.E.B. Du Bois. And I thought we were going to get more information and more perspective from Jesse, and I thought that W.E.B. Du Bois was going to be like a side character, like a side quest. And the author chose to just write about how she was unable to, in a lot of ways, stand up for herself, and how she interacted with W.E.B. You found yourself very, very frustrated at her inner thoughts, and how she constantly had to convince herself she was doing the right thing by having an affair with this man who clearly did not give a shit about her, because he kept telling her, I like you and I love being with you, but I'm also a man, and a man have needs, and I'm also Dick and Sally So and Susan and Rachel and Emily Down. You get me? So I just feel like, and it's also a weird thing when you're out here trying to, root for the side piece, who is Jessie. Like, I was rooting for her in the beginning, and then I was like, what? And then it just was not what I thought it was going to be, and it was a big disappointment for me. And then Only for the Weak is a romance that I feel like the main character is very, very, very much like myself. And I really love that. So I did have to put it as, a book that made me want to check Netherlands. You know what I mean? And then The Art of Scandal is another book that made me want to check Netherlands. And because of that, it's because, I really like the dynamic between the main character and the other main character, and how their romance came to be. And even though it was messy at times, they were able to figure it out in the end. And then the banter in Honey and Spice, it was next to none of those two main characters. They, you can fake date all you want, but this was good. This was good. I'm not really versed enough to tell you guys about tropes and things like that, but that definitely was a great book. And then Long Shot is a book that made me want to check the comments. And yeah, you might have think, oh yeah, it's a romance, but this is a very, very abusive romance. I was reading that book, I think I got 50%, and I was like, I can't do this shit anymore. I need to make a whole video on TikTok and be like, you guys, what is going on here? So I needed input. I needed direct conversation with people of trying to figure out what the hell happened in that book. And then Real was just beautiful, of how you could do whatever you want. I'm still not leaving you. I love you and I care for you, and I'm going to be with you. Period. End of the conversation. So I'm definitely going to put that up there as well. And then Dragons in the Bag. I just really, really, really love that book, and I got to put me first. That's the section I'm going to put, because I don't know if I gave it 5 stars. I think that I did, but that book was amazing. It's following the story of this little boy who is like hanging out with his mom, and then his mom had to go and do something, and she asked this woman who's like a mother figure to her to watch her son, and she was pretty mean about it. And then you go and see how, you know, this older woman and her son develop a relationship, and he finds out that dragons are real and that she has a role to play in apprehending creatures. Like, you know, just, it was very much giving reminiscence of, oh my God, I forget that movie, but it's like the guy, he goes around, it's in that Lady Who We Don't Like universe, but it's like, it's reminiscence of that. And I don't remember and don't need to say. So anyway, and then Smash Histories. This is the next book we're going to talk about here. And I'm going to put this in scary because what the actual F, right? I'm reading this book and I'm like, wow, we're going through the history of plagues and what people did at each point of history to kind of manage plagues or get people to be more responsive to what is going on. And I feel like history repeats itself over and over and over and over again down to COVID-19. And a bunch of people are losing their lives because people are not learning from history and learning from history mistakes. And just reading that, it was very informative, I will say. I think you definitely should read it. It's a short read. It's not a long read, but it definitely moved and changed me. But it also was equally scary to know, like, now I won't say like every, you know, epidemic that happens that we're going to respond poorly, but I haven't had a lot of evidence that prove that the Western world will not do exactly what they did the time before. So that is a sad reality of it. And then the Babysitters Club, I'm going to go ahead and put it down for a comment section because I just really wanted to know what people thought about them as individuals, how they felt about secrets that was caught into the family, into the group of friends. And I asked a bunch of questions too when we did a live show discussing this, but it just was like, I was just very curious because I am not a child who read the Babysitter Club. I know a lot of you probably have done that, but I was not a child who did that. So I really wanted to talk with people who've already read it and how they feel about the graphic novel rendition of the Babysitters Club. And then the Makers Club is also something I would like to be in the comments and talking to people about, because I think that it is a good representation on how you have different upbringing, you have different households, and you respond to things differently. I do think that there was some gaps in the Makers Club that kind of, I didn't feel that the stories were as cohesive or flowed or ended in a way that as a reader you weren't wanting more. But I think overall the different types of ability, gender, religion, and racial diversity in this book and how you can come together through a Makers Club and make what you want and celebrate what you like, I think was done really well. So that is my tier ranking list. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you have anything that you wanted to add to anything that I said, let me know. Please put some dinosaurs in the comment section below if you got this far, and I will talk to you later. Bye.